Hi guys, this lesson is identifying medians, altitudes, and bisectors. The goal is to identify properties of medians, altitudes, and bisectors in triangles. And the standard is similarity, right triangles, and trig, number 5. What you need to understand in this lesson is that in any triangle, there are certain sets of lines that meet at a single point. And two of these sets of lines are perpendicular bisectors and the angle bisectors of each of the angle vertices. Also, a triangle's three medians are also concurrent, or they meet at a single point. Okay, your first definition is a median. And the median of a triangle is a segment that connects a vertex to the midpoint of its opposite side. Notice it connects or it divides the opposite side into two congruent segments. And it could be either one. I could cut this side or I could cut this side, but it would cut it into two congruent segments, and it always starts at a vertex. The next definition is altitude, and altitude is merely a segment that goes from a vertex to the opposite side, and it crosses at a right angle. It's perpendicular to that line. Doesn't necessarily cross it and cut it into two congruent segments, but it does cross at a 90-degree angle. An angle bisector is merely a segment that divides an angle into two congruent angles. It doesn't have anything to do with dividing a side into equal segments. It doesn't have anything to do with dividing a side into perpendicular or right angles. It only has to do with dividing angles into two congruent angles. And the final definition is perpendicular bisector. It splits a segment into two congruent segments, and it is perpendicular to that segment. Notice it doesn't have to start at a vertex, but it splits this segment. Those are two congruent segments, and splits it at a right angle. Make sure you draw these examples in your notebook so you can refer back to them when you do your assignment. Now let's take a look at some examples. Okay, let's take a look at this. It says, which term describes line segment FH? That is this line segment right here. Well, I notice it doesn't cross at a 90-degree angle, nor does it say or show that these two line segments are congruent, but it does show that these two angles are congruent. So in this case, the only thing that I can say is that that line is an angle bisector. Okay, you have 6 practice problems. Remember, look at your drawings in your notes. Also, think through it like I thought through my practice problem. Practice 1 says, which term describes line segment QS? Practice 2. Angle SVT is equal to angle TVU. Which term describes line segment VT? Practice 3. Which term describes line segment VT? Practice 4. Angle AEC is a right angle, and line segment DE is congruent to line segment AE. Which term describes line segment CE? Practice 5. Which term describes line segment BD? Practice 6. Which line segment is a perpendicular bisector? So how do you feel after watching this video? Hopefully you kind of get it or you understand it. And some of you are going to be so good you could teach this. Go do your assignment and hopefully you'll do well on it. And that's the end of this lesson.